Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. I'm doing the lessons this year and asking Jesus to clarify for me, and then I'm writing from that clarity. And so that's what I'm sharing. This morning, I looked at the review 5, introduction to the review. And this is our 5th review. Recorded that, and now I'm going to record the lesson. And the lesson is 171. God is but love, and therefore so am I. All things are echoes of the voice for God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. The power of decision is my own. God is but love, and therefore so am I. It's interesting for me to go through reviews like this. All things are echoes of the voice for God. What does that mean again? I find that I can't remember. As I go back and read the original lesson, I remember. Oh, yes. I have been asking the ego what everything means, and he has sent me words and pictures and filled my senses with proof of loss, fear, and guilt. I've asked the ego to judge, and everyone I look on is found wanting. How can this be true if my source is love and only love? Thoughts leave not their source, and so I must be like God. I must be love and only love, the same for all other parts of the sonship. What are the errors I make daily and the horrors I read about in the paper? What are the attacks I experience from friend and enemy alike? Am I supposed to pretend these are not happening? I am love. There is only love. Everything else I see is a message of judgment from the ego. The ego is a non-existent liar. Why am I listening to it? How can I hear the echoes of the voice for God if I'm listening to something else? No, it's like he tells us at the beginning of the course, that wonderful statement, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So nothing real can be threatened. Love can't be threatened. Peace cannot be threatened. Joy cannot be threatened. God, oneness cannot be threatened. And nothing unreal exists. So the anger, the fear, the guilt, the hatred, sickness, all of these things, those are non-existent. It can't exist because it's not God. So herein lies the peace of God. So that kind of went nicely with that, didn't it? I was guided to look at on the second part that we're looking at, which is the power of decision is my own. So I was guided to look at the power of decision again, and was further guided to review how it is I make decisions. This is from Rules for Decision, chapter 30. Paragraph 14 says, we said you can begin a happy day with the determination not to make decisions by yourself. This seems to be a real decision in itself, and yet you cannot make decisions by yourself. The only question really is with what you choose to make them. That's all really. The first rule then is not coercion, but a simple statement of a simple fact. You will not make decisions by yourself, whatever you decide, for they are made with idols or with God. And you ask help of Antichrist or Christ, which you choose will join with you and tell you what to do. That's a really good one too, because it seems like he's contradicting yourself. He'll say, make no decisions by yourself. But then he's clarifying for us and telling us you are never making decisions by yourself. So what he means is don't make them with the ego, make them with the Holy Spirit. And then paragraph 16 also says this: the second rule as well is but a fact. For you and your advisor must agree on what you want before it can occur. It is but this agreement that permits all things to happen. Nothing can be caused without some form of union, be it with a dream of judgment or the voice for God. Decisions cause results because they are not made in isolation. They are made by you and your advisor, for yourself and for the world as well. The day you want, you offer to the world, for it will be what you have asked for and will reinforce the rule of your advisor in the world. Whose kingdom is the world for you today? What kind of day will you decide to have? The lesson tells us in no uncertain terms and with no compromise that whatever is in our lives is there because we decided on it. In the text, he's explaining how we make the decision. We make it in union, either with the ego or the Holy Spirit. There is no other option. We do not make decisions on our own, no matter what we tell ourselves to the contrary. For example, how is it that loss shows up in my life? Who would want that? Who would decide for loss? Well, we did. We decided to show up as bodies that die. We then decided that when somebody's body dies, it means they die and we will suffer their loss. On two levels, we've made that decision: on the level of manifestation and on the level of interpretation. Neither death nor loss are in God, so we must have made those decisions with the ego. Unless we think there is some limit to the power of our decisions, remember lesson 152. No one can suffer loss unless it be his own decision. No one suffers pain except his choice elects the state for him. No one can grieve, nor fear, nor think him sick unless these are the outcomes that he wants. And no one dies without his own consent. Nothing occurs but represents your wish, and nothing is omitted that you choose. Here is your world, complete in all details. Here is its whole reality for you, and it is only here salvation is. So here's something that happened several years ago in the instructions that I received from the Holy Spirit. A dear one questioned me and doubted me, and I felt resentment well up in my mind. I began to doubt myself, and this made me fearful. I hated her for how I felt. I looked at this and saw that when my friend questioned and doubted me, I had asked the ego to judge this for me so I would know what it meant. The ego said that she was so wrong to do this, and she was right in her judgment. The ego also guided me to memories of past errors to prove its judgment was true. All day long, the ego guided me to further proof of my incompetence. It seemed to be everywhere I turned. As the day came to a close, my dear one seemed to have become my hated one. Jesus says that I am love as my Father is love. As I meditated on this, I began to doubt the ego judgment. Either the ego is wrong or Jesus is wrong. What if Jesus is right? I asked the Holy Spirit's judgment of my friend and for his judgment of me. The Holy Spirit asked me if my friend is expressing love or is she asking for love. There is nothing else to consider. Everything else is a false judgment. Why would I ask the ego when the ego knows nothing? Why don't I just ask the blind man what color blue looks like? The ego has no conception of love, and so it has no conception of me. No matter what judgment I ask the Holy Spirit to make, his answer is always the same. What if I lose my job? There's only love. What if I'm wrong about everything I think I know? There is only love. What if something goes wrong? Someone dies. I get lost. My friend turns away from me. No one likes me. I forget who I am. God is only love. There is only love. You are only love. So, Holy Spirit, what if I don't believe this? What if I argue against it? What if my mind rails against you, Holy Spirit, and decides against you? What if I decide that you are clearly insane if you can look around at what I see and call it love? Holy Spirit, there is only love. God is but love. God is all there is. You are but love. Turn only to me for the truth, because the ego does not know the truth. Let go of all the thoughts the ego gave you concerning the situation, every element of the dream, and all that will be left is the echo of the voice for God, which is love. Do not doubt that you can see only love, because that is all there is. Place your doubt where it is clearly appropriate, on the ego. And I said, I hear my friend say something that I know is inaccurate. She has not seen this correctly. Wouldn't it be the loving thing to correct her? And wouldn't it be my job to set it straight? And Holy Spirit says, Myron, your job is to see her as she is, only love. If you see anything else when you look at her, recognize that you are asking the ego for its judgment. And I said, what about teaching? Shouldn't I be teaching what I know to others? And Holy Spirit said, you are always teaching. You teach others who they are by being who you are. If they are ready for the lesson, they will get it. If not, they will get it later. If you're teaching who you are not, some will accept that lesson as well until they are ready for a new lesson. And I said, well, is there no place for words? And the Holy Spirit says, tell others about your experiences, how you are learning your lessons, and those times when you seem not to be learning. This is the way you are to teach. This will be helpful. When you look at another and decide they are wrong, this is not a lesson for them, but for you. It's an opportunity for you to set aside the ego judgment and ask me to evaluate the situation with you, for you. In me, the power of decision is my own. I will decide for God. So thank you for joining me with this review lesson. And if you found it helpful, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with the next review lesson.